Hello and welcome to this video where we'll come into DLT data load tool. This video is for using DLT to load the data in Sakila database, the SQLite database, into a DuckDB database. And in a previous video, we actually used load and attach using the SQLite extension in DuckDB to do that. However, it's good to learn about DLT since DLT, you choose the source and the destination and they can be different. For example, now we just picked from SQLite into DuckDB, but it could be from SQLite into MySQL. It could be SQLite into Postgres or other sources and destinations. The thing is that it standardizes how to load the data, and this is really useful to learn. And if you want to learn more about, I have a video where I use DLT to load data from API into Snowflake, into DuckDB. That is also really interesting that the DLT is really good at solving the EL part, extract load of the ELT. This is really useful to learn and to know about, but I will just go into the very basics here for the SQLite into DuckDB. Let's start in Kaggle. Here I searched for SQLite Sakila sample database. This is the one that we will use, and you can just download it. Click download here and take out SQLite-sakila.db file. Basically, this is a sample database for fictitious database designed to represent a DVD rental store. And this is original, developed for MySQL, but now we will use it and ingest it from into the sources, and the destination is DuckDB. I'll show you how to do that. Make sure that you are logged into Kaggle using, for example, your Google account. Here I am in VS Code, and I have my SQLite-sakila.db. Yes, I cannot open it. And this is the only thing that I have. Let's start from scratch. UV init, that we have our project started, our main.py. I remove this one. I don't need the main.py. What I will need is to do catch. I will call this load Sakila _ SQLite.db.py. I will go from Sakila. I will go from SQLite to DuckDB. This is the file that I will use, and I will use UV. I need to install some things. UV add first IPyKernel, because I will actually use some Jupyter Notebook later on to test it out. But first we will use DLT. Here I will use DLT, and I will need to install it in this way because I will need something called SQL_database. This is needed for doing the connection to SQLite. That's the thing. And then actually, I think this might be everything. I will install this one. Oh, there is some issues here. Are not open. Requirement name DLT matches project name DLT. That was a mistake of me to call this DLT. I will pause the video and I will change the name of my project name. Basically, what I did was to go into PyProject.toml and change this to DLT Sakila instead. That I can install this one. I could do UV add IPyKernel DLT SQL database without problems now. It works. Let's now go into this script here and let's type it out. It is very simple to work with this. You have import DLT, and then you have from my Python virtual environment here from dlt.sources.sql database, import SQL database. Remember that I need this one to work with SQLite. I needed to connect to SQLite more. You can use it to connect to other ones as well. Here you can also take in pathlib, import path. And the pathlib, I will use it to create a path to my SQLite and also to my DuckDB path. I'll do SQLite path equals to path of the file. You get the path to this file, and then I'll do .parent, and now I will be in the DLT. Then I will do /data. That means I will go into the data path, DLT data path, And then I will go into slash SQLite -sakila.db. Now I have the path to this Sakila. I have this SQLite path. And what I could do is that I actually would call this data path, and I will remove this part. Why do I do that? Because then I can reuse data path, and I will call this now SQLite path equals to data path, and then paste this one in. Now I go to SQLite-sakila.db, and then I can copy this one, Shift-Alt down button, and now I will have, instead of SQLite path, I will have DuckDB path. And it's the same data path, but here I will just name it differently. What do I want to name it? I will call it sakila.duckdb. These are, you can see this as, this is the source, SQLite path, and this is the source path, and this is the destination path. Based on this one, we'll actually create our source SQL database. And here we'll do credentials equals to basically like this f-string. And I will have SQLite. You don't have any credentials in SQLite. 1, 2, 3. And here we put in the SQLite path. That is it. And then we do, let's see, comma, we choose which schema we pick from. Schema equals to main. I will go from the main schema, and because there all my views are there in the main schema. And I want to create a pipeline. This is how DLT works. They always have this pipeline for running the data from a source into a destination. What I do is pipeline object DLT.pipeline. And here I will have a pipeline name, and the pipeline name is called Sakila_SQLite, SQLite.db I'll call it. Sakila, this pipeline name, and then I will have destination equals to, here I'll use, let me just take some more space here, DLT.destinations.duckdb. And here I will have string of my DuckDB path. Dataset name. This is the schema basically. I will call this staging because I want my data to land in the staging's schema. This is the staging layer. And if I want to transform the data, I will have another layer called a refine layer. Let us start with this. This is our pipeline. And then what we do is load info equals to pipeline.run. And I will pick the source because this is still, you have the pipeline which defines where the data will land. And we put in the source for it, the data that will be sent. Now I will also do this position. The simplest one is to replace it, which means that yes, we will get the data from the source, put it into our destination. And if there's data there before, we just replace it. And then we'll then print load info. And my friends, this is it. What we should do now is to go in and run this one. I will go into my terminal and do uv run python load Sakila SQLite.db. Let's see, that error before just said we need to install DLT DuckDB. uv add DLT DuckDB like this. After we have done that, yeah, it just installed DuckDB basically. Now we can run it. We can do uv run python load Sakila SQLite.duckdb. I run this one. And you can see something happen. We have sakila.duckdb. .well file disappeared. Then let's connect and see. Let's create another a Jupyter Notebook here now. I'll call this test sakila.ipnb. Now it's just to check our Sakila. Change my virtual environment, and now change this one to Python. Import DuckDB. And what we need to do is very simple. We just need to connect with DuckDB.connect. Where is the file? Where it's in data/Sakila.duckdb. Perfect. /con for connection. And if you've seen my previous video, I did a connection with Sakila, and that we did a lot of exploratory data analysis. I won't do that. I'll just check that it works. I'll do description equals to con.sql desk /df to export the data frame. Now I can just type description, module not found, numpy. Then let's install it. UV add numpy. Actually, UV add pandas. Then you will have numpy as well. Numpy and pandas you saw. Now you can see something happens. Yes, perfect. Now you can see that our database is populated with a lot of tables. We have Sakila here as the database name, and then we have schema, that is the staging. We chose to have it in the staging schema. That was the dataset name. Remember here, we have the dataset name as staging. And then we have some meta tables, which will keep track of the versions, pipeline state, and the number of loads that we have done. These are the ones corresponding to DLT ones. You have underscore here in front. And the rest are the Sakila tables. You can see here actor, address, category, city, etc. Cool. I don't need to show everything. But we could, for example, in the last video, I showed you how to store the data into Fs and then register them into DuckDB. I can show you how to do that similarly here now. But what I will do is I will start with storing data into dictionary of DFs, basically. To do that, we will do here DFs equals to an empty dictionary, and then I will do with duckdb.connect. Here I will do data/sakila.duckdb as con, and after that I will do something in style with this. I will do for, basically we have the desk we have name, and we can do for name in description of, what is it called? It's called name. And then we can do something with this dfs of name equals to con.sql. And here I'll do f-string, and I'll do from staging dot name /df. This one, now I will have a lot of things in my DFs. But you can see we have these underscores as well, but I don't want to have those. I will say for name in, what I can do is, let's see, just simply like if underscore, if for example like this, name of 0 is the first character, if this is not equals to underscore, then we will do this, otherwise we won't do this. Now you can see they have, or actually we have DLT load ID. Yeah, this is part of the actors table. That is fine, because that is how DLT works, to keep track of all the things. But that is fine. See, for example, here, if we pick out actor, you can see here we have this DLT load ID as well, and a DLT ID. This is just for it to keep track of things that you can do, for example, incremental loading and other things. Here, just take a look into that one, and then we will register all. Actually, we can register it all directly in this for loop, actually, for statement. What we can do here is to do duckdb dot register and dot register, let's say the name, comma, dfs or name. As simple as that. To check, we can do duckdb dot SQL, and we can take a look into, if we do this, you can see, and you can see now we have registered all of these into our DuckDB. You can see they are inside of the temp database, temporary database, and the main schema, and we have all of them here. That means we can do something in style as this one, duckdb.sql. We can do from actor, for example, and then .df. Perfect. And here you can say, you can pick out different things. From actor, for example, select first name, for example, and here you get all the first name. From our last name. Cool. Now you see it works. We have loaded the data from SQLite into DuckDB. And then afterwards, we have used this test Sakila to actually check out all the tables and restore them in DF so that we can have this nice data structure to see the data frames. And we have also done registering. Here we register them to DuckDB, so that when you have it in DuckDB, you can very easily work with it and you can do different joins, etc. with several tables without using the con object. We don't need to connect to the DuckDB all the time. We don't need to write this type of syntax all the time with duckdb.connect. That is really cool. Let's move on, and you should make sure to commit and push your changes to GitHub. Yes, in this video we have worked with DLT to load the data from SQLite into DuckDB. And then when we have it inside of DuckDB, we use the Jupyter Notebook to test it out and to do some registering, and then afterwards show that it worked with doing some queries on some tables. That was super nice, and I hope that you learned a lot in this video and that you start to enjoy DLT and see the power of it to standardize the way of moving data from one place to another one. It's really nice for doing some different types of migrations, and it's super cool. Thank you for watching this video, and see you in the next one. Bye.